Hey guys, Kevin Downey here. Thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. In this video, I actually want to do a quick introduction to a software I've been introduced called Aptive Index. I can't begin to talk about how impressive this software is, and it's specifically it's AI, which is called Aria. And I'm not a big adopter of AI as an agent, in our agency to this point, and have always doubted the practical application of AI and how you're really going to use it. And this is really the first. I mean, I've had one thing I've seen that was pretty impressive on what it could do. This is the first time I've looked at AI and I said, "Oh my goodness, I get it. I totally get it. I see why AI needs to be starting to be used in companies, because it doesn't for the purposes of this, it's not about replacing people in usability. It's actually about enhancing the performance of executive team, hiring managers, VPs, directors, managers, anybody that's got direct reports, as well as HR and internal recruiters. This software, combined with its AI, is completely game changing, and it really flips its competition. It flips on its competition like a full 180 to do that because of the AI. And I'm going to dig into that and explain it in a minute. But this software, what is it all about? Is a 30,000 foot view. We can all agree that people problems, right? Hiring people, retaining good people, finding good people, retaining good people, turnover, losing people, dealing with mishires, and especially at a higher level employees, when we have mishires, catastrophically expensive sometimes, and not to mention toxic employees, if you have them, are some of the most painful and expensive that we deal with in companies, right? Aptive Index is all about solving that for organizations. So if you have employees of any kind, it's something you need to look at, right? I'll dig into the pricing at the very end, but it's priced on an unlimited use software for an unlimited everyone in your company based on employee count, right? And so if you're a small organization, it's very inexpensive. It is something you absolutely need to be. Everybody should be using it, but literally as a small business, it's so inexpensive. It's like it's a no-brainer. Okay. Anyway, so let's jump back to what it is. So if you have people, it's something that's going to help you solve people problems all across the board, right? And I think statistically, the last thing I would point out is we know, turnover rates in the United States, 42 to 47%, depending on the data you believe. We're losing almost 1 out of every 2 people in companies year over year. That's catastrophically high from my point of view. I can't imagine why we have such high turnover rates all the time. We're really struggling to identify talent that's going to fit in a role in our organization. We're still going off of hiring, even though statistically the data is all out there and tells us hiring off a resume doesn't predict future success. It's one of the worst predictors of future success. And that's always been true. And now you've got everybody fabricating their resumes with AI, right? They're using it to rewrite their resumes for them. So the exaggeration, if not outright fabrication, going on with resumes. So they're inaccurate. Skills and experience, that's one of the worst ways to hire people. And when we say skills, we don't mean, hey, if I need a Python programmer, I need somebody who can program Python. Obviously, that's a case. We're talking about everything else when we talk about skills. But skills and experience does not predict future performance. Right? The highest number one predictor of whether or not somebody's going to be successful in a job is to actually contract them and put them in the job and try them out first before you hire them as a W-2. That would be the number one way. The number two way is software like Aptive Index, and especially theirs because it's the most accurate on the market. It literally identifies by looking at, again, I'm going to dig into the science, the hardwiring of someone to match them to a job. And it's why it predicts future performance, it predicts success, and therefore the people, when you implement this in an organization, it's why you find better people, you retain people better, they perform better, you get better ROI out of your people, and you lose the number of mishires, the number of toxic employees goes way down. The end stat that I would tell you is those that implement Aptive Index, we know this from their studies, see a 40% drop in turnover rate, which equates to, for every 6 employees, they have 1 less mishire. If you have 6 employees, you have 1 less mishire a year. All right, so multiply that out if you have a lot of employees and what that changes. Okay, so what is it at its core? Okay, it is, technically speaking, a psychometric assessment with advanced AI to help people implement it. And I'm gonna dig into that because it's really the key difference in this product versus all of its competitors, right? So when we talk about it as a psychometric assessment, it measures people's, so it takes 8 to 10 minutes to complete. It measures somebody's base hardwiring. Technically, it's their cognitive psychology attributes, okay, which are the things that drive our decisions and our actions. And when applied to, when you measure these things, they're stable, by the way, they don't change. So unlike some of your personality and your skills and experience and all kinds of things like that, which can change over time from your experiences, from learning, these cognitive psychology attributes don't change. And the science has been around a long, long time. So we know that it's legit, right? It's dead on. And their competition, some of them have great products, right? And do very similar things. When you measure these attributes, you get a window into how people are wired. You understand how they're wired. So it drives their decisions and their actions. It's like having X-ray vision into people, right? And again, the studies are all there. You can look at, they have this validation report available on their website. They've had thousands of participants as they were developing the science in this product. And all these validation studies, it's EEOC compliant. I mean, it's bias free. It's absolutely amazing and so impressive from that regard and from a hiring standpoint, but it goes so much deeper than that. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. Okay. So when we talk about what it's measuring, it is measuring our cognitive psychology attributes, which technically they just call cognitive attributes. So it measures 8. 4 attributes form our profile in Aptive Index: influence, sociability, consistency, and precision. And then we have 4 standalone attributes called emotional resonance, pro-social, intensity, and abstraction. Okay. What does it look like? And this is what makes this product so different. Once if you've ever taken any of their competition, you're going to understand both the accuracy. This product, again, better than its competitors, taking a leap forward in the science. And I'm not going to dig into that in this video. I want to talk about the AI in particular. But when we look at it on its surface, so this, for example, would be just the base attributes, right? And then they call them factor pairings, which once you understand the product is really, really neat to have. But this is what your report would look like. So if you haven't taken it, by the way, take it. You should have a link. If you don't have a link, get a link from me, email me, go through our website, kevinmdowney.com. I can get you a link to take it, and it'll kick you a report when you complete it. You'll get a PDF that basically says this exact information right here. Right? It's going to tell you your profile. They all have names. There's like 19, I think it is, total. I'm technically called an expert, which is part of, in the quadrant, an octopus, and I'll show you what that looks like at the end. That in and of itself doesn't really mean anything. It's all about, well, okay, what does that mean, and tell us about me or tell us about an individual. Okay, so these products, when we talk about Aptive Index, and again, historically it's competition, dead on accurate. I have taken a ton of them, right? My assessment results on the various things, and they all measure slightly differently, all come out about the same, right? Aptive Index, dead on accurate. I know it is, right? I know it's telling me exactly how I'm wired, and it speaks to me. So when you complete it and you read your profile, you're going to be blown away. You're going to say, holy cow, how does that pull that off when I did something where I just selected some keywords in 8 to 10 minutes? It's amazing, okay? But now the big question is, if we have all of this data and all of this science, been around for a century, been implemented in business for decades, why do we not have widespread implementation or integration into companies with software products like this? Like, they're out there. Certainly there's some companies that use them, but we're not talking about everybody. Not every company uses them. It's not, certainly not what I would call super common out there, right? And before Aptive Index, I really never understood why, because I looked at them, I've been around these things for a decade, and I looked at them and I say, oh my gosh, this is dead accurate. It tells you exactly how a person's wired. It tells you what kind of jobs they're going to fit into, where they're going to succeed, where they're going to excel, where they're going to be energized. And then it also tells you what kind of jobs they're not a fit for, right? So it's already telling you what they're a fit for, not to mention how to communicate with them, how to manage them, how to deal with conflict resolution, all that stuff. But you have to understand the science. You have to dig in and learn, and that's where Aptive Index has turned everything on a 180. So historically, companies, when they utilize these products, they have to go through massive amounts of training and workshops to begin to understand them, right? So widespread integration or implementation into a company, especially at the front line and middle level of companies, is not going to happen because it is so expensive to train that number of people on the science behind these products, not to mention the fact some of them just aren't going to find that all that interesting. Right? So you end up with just a handful of people being trained on it, and therefore you don't have the widespread integration, not throughout companies, but again, throughout the individual organization and all of the people, right? Because we want it to go from owner to an executive team to VPs, directors, managers, anybody who has direct reports, and then your frontline people in HR and your internal recruiters. Everybody should be using this science because it tells you so much about people. It's the most accurate way to hire people. It gives you the most information on how to manage people. But yet they're really complex on the surface, so much so that you have to be trained on them. And again, Aptive Index has turned this on its head with its AI. And how has it done that? So I'm going to give you a couple of quotes, and I'm going to show you a sample of what it can do. So it's AI. Instead of having a person in a company getting access to Aptive Index and having to learn how it works, right, in great detail, the science, right, it literally has an AI that can answer every and any question about any person that takes the assessment. And again, it only takes 8 to 10 minutes. So practically speaking, in an organization, you would have every single person in the company take it, and access to that information is going to be by everyone that has direct reports, including your HR team, as well as, let's say, your internal recruiters, right? So you're going to do it. You're going to give it to everyone you might hire, everybody in your organization, so that you get a window into how people are wired, what drives them to behave and decide to make decisions the way that they do. This AI changes the game entirely, because what it does is it allows your company and your people to not have to be trained on the science behind it. The AI will answer any question about a person that you have, right? So you can ask it for quick meeting tips, right? You can ask it for recommended positions, all kinds of different conflict resolution, team building and matching up people together. I'm going to go through some other examples. Giving critical feedback and how to do that with someone. Would X person make a good Y position, right? Would Kevin Downey make a good software consultant, right? The AI is going to give you the most accurate feedback for all of those questions that you could have about any individual in your organization, along with any individual you might consider hiring. That's game changing. I mean, again, it's proven that their clients reduce their turnover rates by 40%. That is a very significant number. And the reason is because of the widespread adoption within the organizations, within the clients, by all of the people that have direct reports and HR use it rather than not use it. Let me give you a couple of quotes really quick. So one sales leader, I got this from one of the strategic advisors at Aptive Index, said that they have a sales leader, a client that has a sales leader that's been using it and was one of their first users and played baseball in college, D1 or D2. And he said to, for a sports analogy, it'd be like playing baseball without a glove. If I didn't have Aptive Index now, it's like playing baseball without a glove. Another person in HR was quoted as saying, and she has corrective vision, corrective lenses, really bad vision. And she said, without Aptive Index, it's like me running around without my glasses all day. Like Aptive Index allows me, it's like putting my glasses back on. I have clarity. I can see. I have so much information about going into every meeting. I run a meeting tip or get a profile overview. If I haven't already done it and I don't know it already, I get every single person I'm going to meet with before I meet with them in the organization. That's huge. It's huge. So think about how that can be used in your company to make things so much easier for all of your people in your organization, and ultimately help you find the right people, help you save money, and again, minimizing turnover, getting rid of toxic hires, all of that stuff, or toxic people, and not making those toxic mishires, right? So last couple of things beyond the AI, and again, there's so many things I could ask it. It blows you away just how crazy accurate it is. But when it comes to recruiting and hiring, one of the things we would look at is how does it work there? So you got a couple of things here. So we're going to look at strategic advisor as a position in Aptive Index, right? So I handle all the recruiting of the strategic advisors. So this is the layout of the map of our profile that we're looking at is high I, mid S, low C, basically mid, low P, and then high intensity, right? So we build that, we give the link to everybody that's going to interview the position or is applying to the position. They take the Aptive Index, and then when they go through it, we get a match percentage for every single individual. Now, we can also ask the AI, hey, would Tom C make a good, strategic advisor at Aptive Index? But we can ask it anything we want, and it can tell you all kinds of detail, but this gives you kind of a shortcut of how somebody matches for the job, right? Absolutely amazing. Now you wonder, okay, how do you build these kinds of profiles to be able to do that sort of thing? Well, once you understand the product, you're going to be able to build them yourself, but Aptive Index will help you do it. But the other thing that this software has, and this is the part beyond the AI, this is the other thing that blew me away, because I realized how you could do this, right? So here's all the strategic advisors at Aptive Index at this point, right? So you have everybody that's this is the full map of the of Aptive Index, the world or the universe of Aptive Index, right, is on this circle. So your strategic advisors are basically an all-in-one quadrant, if you will, almost, a little bit past the quadrant, okay? So you have 8 people in a department. Let's say you've got 8 people in a customer service client support department, right? And you've got 3 real standouts, and then you've got 5 that go from so-so down to not doing so well, right? And you run them all on Aptive Index, and then you find out that your 3 top performers are these 3, let's say right here. You got 3 people with wiring patterns that are all effectively the same, and they're outperforming everybody in that job. They're your best hires. They're your longest tenured people. They're the ones that make everything easy, right, by doing their jobs, and they do it really, really well. So guess what? If then everybody else is all over the place on the rest of this, the other 5 people, we know that that's the pattern we're looking for. So you take them, you fuse their pattern, you have them, they have taken the Aptive Index, you take their patterns, now you know what the pattern should look like for that job, and now when you go to hire for the job, you've got the pattern already established based on people that are already in your company, and you know what you're looking for. You know what type of person you're looking for. You know what type of wiring pattern you're looking for. Okay? You can do that for every position, every department in your company where you have enough people to work with as a starting point, right? Sales, it's huge, right? The different sales type jobs, right? Because sales jobs are all a little bit different. Huge in sales departments, right? And then finally, they have something called Team Print. I haven't dug into this into great detail yet, but it basically shows a map with 6 different points or segments of a business of how people lay out within the company and what your coverage is as a company with that group of people. So in the SAs, we're not going to cover all 6 points really well because everybody's kind of similar, right? So we cover 3 points pretty well, but the other 3 not so much. That's okay because we're all doing the same thing. But when you take a look at a department or maybe the company as a whole, you're going to want to see touch points probably across all 6. Anyway, that's more of a deeper thing to get into if we do a demo. But anyway, next steps. If you haven't taken the Aptive Index, take it. You should have a link. If you don't have a link, email me. If you don't have my email address, go to the Kevin M. Downey website. There is a link to take the Aptive Index. You will get the results by PDF. Going to be delivered to you by email. I will also get a copy. And then if you want to jump on a call and talk about the application and use in your organization, I'm sure you're going to want to ask about price, cost. We'll dig into it. Okay. So sorry I took so long. Thanks for taking the time today. Want to wish you the best of luck in business. And again, if you've got employees and you want to solve your people problems, the #1 software on the market today, hands down, Aptive Index. You want to take a good look at it. All right. Have a good one, guys. Talk to you soon.